So I gotta be real with you guys. I already know today's video is going to be extremely triggering to a large demographic of my audience. For the most part, I don't consider myself an NBA YouTuber, but an NBA history YouTuber. My specialty is covering eras from generations past. I choose to cover these past eras more than the modern era, not because I'm biased towards older basketball, and not because those eras contain some of my favorite players. The reason I do it is because I believe it's the best thing I have to offer. Most YouTubers who cover this sport are much younger than me and haven't been watching the game as long, which naturally means that the modern coverage of the NBA is way more saturated. With each video I upload, I hope that there is something new that the audience can learn from it. If you watch my video and you discover something new and interesting about the game of basketball, then I believe I'm doing my job well. This is why I disproportionately talk about the past generations more. With this being the case, my average viewer tends to be much older than the average basketball viewer. You fellow old heads are the lifeblood of my channel. I am eternally grateful for you guys, because I know for a fact that my channel wouldn't be nearly as successful if it wasn't for you guys consistently tuning in. With that being said, I tried to be as impartial as possible with my basketball opinions. So because of that, I have to risk pissing some of you off today. As the title of this video indicates, I firmly believe that this modern era is the most overall talented league in the history of the NBA. For a while, I debated between several different eras. The NBA around 1988, around 1992, and around the early 2000s were ridiculously dense with superstar talent. And maybe in a future video, I'll break down the comparisons even more. But as of now, 2023 stands on top. There's several reasons for this. The first major reason is because there's a tremendous amount of talent league-wide with more teams. Throughout the decade of the 1960s, there was usually about 8 to 12 teams in the entire league. Although the late 1980s were extremely rich in depth, there was still only 20 to 24 teams in the league. The late 90s of the NBA are often referred to as the expansion era because there were numerous teams being added to the competition during those years. If we're being honest, it took a while for the talent in the league to catch up with the amount of teams it had. Whenever teams are added, the talent pool immediately becomes less concentrated, naturally diminishing formidability of the average NBA team. With the league comfortably sitting at 30 teams since the year 2004, there has been plenty of time for the sport to acquire worldwide talent to fit the amount of franchises. Now, my second major reason why this is the most talented era ever is because the rest of the world is better at the game of basketball than they've ever been before. And those top-tier international players almost all represent the NBA. With guys in the league like Giannis, Luka, Jokic, and Embiid, this is probably the first era in NBA history that the top 5 players in the league were mostly made up of international players. It's not just the foreign superstars though, but from the top to the bottom of NBA rosters, we're seeing more capable role players from all over the world. And it's because, on a global scale, the popularity of the game is growing at a rapid rate. No, it's not that the American talent has dropped off, but it's that the international talent has caught up. And some would even suggest that it has surpassed the US in talent. Along with the international talent in the NBA, the Olympic and the FIBA USA teams have been progressively finding it harder and harder to win gold medals throughout the decades. Obviously, it would help the red, white, and blues' chances if they always put their best foot forward and send out the A team for these international competitions. But regardless, the days of the US being able to cruise to a gold medal with simply the B team are long behind us. The third reason why this is the most talented era ever is because in reality, there's several different eras packed into it. For those of you who are old enough, remember those old Energizer battery commercials where the Energizer Bunny was powered by their batteries up against the generic competitors, and the bunny would always win because it just kept going and going and going? Well, the modern athlete is the Energizer Bunny. This isn't just my opinion, but statistically, this is an objective fact. Of the first round of the 1970 NBA draft, the players selected played for an average of 6.4 years. From the 1980 draft, they played for an average of 7 years. From 1990, they played for an average of 8.4 years, and from the 2000 draft, they played for an average of 9 years. Now obviously, I can't gather the data from a decade later, because many of those players are still playing, but I guarantee you that it will be another significant jump. Not just in the NBA, but in basically every sport, athletes are lasting longer than ever before. You have a guy like LeBron James, who's in his 21st season in the NBA and is still considered by many as a top 10 player. Guys like Steph Curry and Kevin Durant are quickly approaching their late 30s and are considered by many to be top 5 players in the league. These guys are just additional superstars to the guys who are in their early 30s and their 20s. If we're looking at NBA history as an indicator, players like LeBron, Steph, and Durant are not supposed to be among the top 10 players in this era. Some of these guys were in the best player conversation in the 2000s. I'm not sure all of you guys are getting my point, so let me put it this way. Guys like Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, and Isaiah Thomas dominated the 1980s, but on average, their careers only lasted about 11 to 13 seasons. Now imagine if these legends remained among the best players in the NBA until their late 30s. If that was the case, the mid to late 1990s would have been absurdly packed with talent at the top. Envision a league with a prime Michael Jordan, Hakeem Olajuwon, David Robinson, Shaquille O'Neal, Grant Hill, Penny Hardaway, Patrick Ewing, and then you throw in Magic, Bird, and Isaiah pretty damn close to their peaks. If that hypothetical league blows your mind, then you should begin to understand my point. That is exactly the kind of league we're in today. Now, as far as the reasons for this, those are debatable. Some will give the credit to modern medicine. Some will give the credit to advanced technology and training methods. Some will give credit to the better shoes and the private planes. Hell, some will even go as far as crediting the load management. And some, with the more spicy takes, might suggest that it's because all of the designer drugs that the league isn't tracking. Whatever the main culprit is, it's simply undeniable. Players are finding ways to extend their primes well beyond what is the typical standard of basketball history. And due to this, we now have this wild league, where players from the 2003 draft class, the 2013 draft class, and the 2023 draft class are all fighting for basketball supremacy. Whether it's the toughest league or the most entertaining league are different conversations entirely that will simply have to wait for a future video. But as far as the most talented era of basketball history, we're living it, and it's getting to the point where it won't even be all that close. So what do you guys think? Is this the most talented era in basketball history? And if it's not, what era would you choose? I look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comment section below. Thanks for watching as always. Make sure to like and subscribe for more basketball content, and I'll see you guys in the next video.